Are you ready? My name is Lisa. This is my channel, Walk With Me, The Journey. I was going to share my testimony with you, but testimonies really should be under 5 minutes. And if you've spent any amount of time with me, you know that to really get to know who I am and what I've been through and how the Lord has used me, it takes a little bit more than 5 minutes. Probably a lot more, but I'm going to try and not make it the lot part, but we need to start at the beginning because I think it's really important for you to know who I am. And when you see people, I don't know about you, but I get these ideas in my head when I look at someone, and not necessarily that I judge them, but I might picture their lives more perfect than they might actually be. And unless you get to really know someone, rarely do you know the depths of the pit that they have been through and how God has used them. And that's what I really want to share with you. So we're going to start at the beginning, which is a very long time ago. And I was not raised in a Christian home. My parents divorced when I was 3. Step-parents came into my life. My mom married my stepdad when I was 5. My dad married my stepmom when I was 5. So I had 4 parents that really had a say in my upbringing, which, sometimes 2 is enough, honestly. So to have four voices, I was kept in check. Let's just say that. I was not raised in a church. No. Was not raised in a Christian home, so we didn't go to church. I did hear about Jesus through one of my mom's dearest friends, Connie. She would sing to me every time she saw me, Jesus loved me. So I did know that song. I did know about Jesus. When I was 11, my mom and I went to church for a year. And at the end of that time, she and I got baptized together, which was amazing and something I still look back on and am so glad that we got to experience that together because my mom is one of my best friends. And I just love her to pieces. And to have that experience together was just amazing. But when my mom and I were at church for that year, that was the first time I really got to see God use me in an amazing way. He gave me the strength and the courage to sit down with my dad and my stepmom and talk to them about their drug use because they did have an issue and it was not okay. They were high from the time they woke up until the time they went to sleep every day. And so I sat down with them and talked to them. I am not big on confrontation. I don't do well in those types of situations, or I didn't back then. Different story today a little bit. I still don't like them, but I handle it differently. So God used me and to be honest with them. And I was honest. And then he gave them the strength they needed to quit doing drugs. And they did, and they remained clean and sober for decades after that, which was amazing. My stepmom, she still was until she passed away. So then my mom and I stopped going to church, and my life started to spiral downward into a horrible pit of depression and anger and making bad choices. I had no self-worth, no self-value. I really did not appreciate who I was. And I put myself into a lot of bad situations. When I was 19, I was still living at home and I got pregnant. And he did not want me to have the child. He wanted me to have an abortion. And that was against my belief. There was no way I was going to have an abortion. So I went to my family because my family had always been there. We've always been close. We've always, made decisions together. And so I went to them and I sought out their help. And at first I remember my dad and my stepmom had said, we will support whatever decision you make. And then I told them that I wanted to keep my child. And they're like, well, that's really not a good decision. So then that was a lie, right? They weren't going to support me. And then they started talking about abortion and how it was going to be too hard if I gave my child up for adoption. And we had this big old long conversation. And it was very frustrating. And it was very painful because I had never experienced my entire family being against me. And they were. My entire family. I mean, my aunts called to tell me I had to have an abortion. My mom was also of the thinking that the abortion was the best decision for me at that time. And my grandmother, my only living grandparent at the time, made a special visit to tell me I was going to have an abortion. There was really no discussion about it. And I was devastated. I mean, it was even to the point that I was told if I didn't have an abortion that I would be homeless. I would be put out on the street. And I had never been in a situation like that. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have a support system at that time. And I remember finding out years later that there are people in this world that would have helped me, but I didn't know where to go, and I wasn't getting the assistance from the Planned Parenthood that I was going to. And so I allowed the abortion to happen. It was ultimately my choice. Yes, it was greatly encouraged by those around me, but it was my choice to do it, and I could have stopped it, and I didn't. And I remember it like it was yesterday. So vivid. I was partially awake during it. I remember I was sobbing the entire time, and it was a horrifying experience. It was emotionally devastating. And that helped with the spiral that I was already in, and I sunk deeper and deeper, and I jumped into a relationship that was not emotionally healthy for me, and I stayed there for a long time. And I was at the end of my rope. It was a hard end. I didn't think I had the strength to leave. I didn't think I was strong enough. And although I hadn't spoken to God in years, and I had become an alcoholic, I had, issues, so many issues. But I hadn't spoken to God in years. That was when I reached out to him because I remembered that he was there for me. And so I did. I called out to him and I asked for help. And I told him I didn't know what to do. And if he wanted me to move forward in any kind of positive light, then he needed to help me. And he did. He gave me a friend who was going through a similar type of situation, who went to church. And so I went with him to church every Sunday. And after a year of going to church every Sunday, I finally gave my life back to Christ because I fought him the whole year, because that's how I am. Apparently I'm stubborn. Weird, right? Who would expect that? But I did. I fought God along the way the whole time. I told him he didn't really want me because of how horrible I was and the things that I had done, because I actually had done all 10 commandments. Not a brag. I had all of them. I mean, and you say, well, you didn't murder anyone. Well, what? Yes, I did, because abortion in my eyes is murder, because it's a death. You're killing an innocent. That's murder. That's what that is. And that's what I allowed to happen. And that was my decision. So yes, I did all 10. That's how I see it. And I fought him. And I didn't know, or I didn't understand at that time, that his love is so much bigger than my sin. His love is pure and awesome, and his forgiveness is there and available. And it didn't matter to him what I had done necessarily, but it was the fact that I was coming to him for forgiveness of my sins. And I genuinely wanted that. When I gave my life back to Christ, it was wholeheartedly that I wanted to walk with him completely, but I still had those addictions to alcohol, to cigarettes. I still had issues that I figured I needed to get rid of before I came to Christ. And he's like, yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. You come to me and we'll work on them together. And that's what we did. And before I knew it, the alcohol was slowly leaving my daily routine. And then I noticed, I didn't tell you, but I had the mouth of a sailor, foul language. And I actually saw it leaving little by little. And that was the first thing he took away from me was the language, and the bad words left. Don't get me wrong, under extreme situations where I do not do what I'm supposed to, when I don't go to God first in prayer, it still comes back to me and I might say something I shouldn't. But we're really still working on things. I am a work in progress. I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So that was the first thing I saw God change in my life, was the language, was the drinking after that. And one day he took the smoking away from me, which is crazy. And that's the part about my testimony I love, because I had tried quitting smoking for years, friends, years. I try and I'd stop, and I didn't try, the patch or anything like that, but I would just try and stop on my own. So when God finally took it from me, I had prayed for years that he would. I think it was 10 years ago. So I had been walking with him for like 8 years, still smoking cigarettes every day. Although for some reason my church family didn't know about it. I don't know. I'm not sure why. Crazy. But so it was during this height of craziness in my life, where Vacation Bible School was starting next week, and I was leading some part of it or whatever. And then my mom was there for a visit, which is not stressful, but when you have people stay with you, you have to, you have an additional person there. Things change a little bit. And then there was like 3 other things going on. And so it was just like one thing layered on top of another. And I remember at 7:00 at night this one evening, and I had 2 cigarettes left. And God actually spoke to me. Not that I heard him, but I had the thought of, I need to go get cigarettes. And the immediate next thought I had was, oh, you're going to quit tonight. And I stopped and went, what? What? Where did that thought come from? Because that's not from me. I certainly would not quit smoking in the middle of craziness. Ever. And yeah, he took that desire away from me that night. Quit smoking. Haven't smoked since. And it's been 10 years, which is amazing. Amazing. So that's the ways I've seen God work in my life. But I told you about how deeply impacted I was by the abortion, and literally I would cry, and not just like a few tears, like I would sob, cry almost every day for 14 years before he finally healed me from that. I had been walking with him for about 3.5 years. And every day I would break down just in the grief and the loss and the sadness and the despair of that decision. And then one day at church, there was a Christian pregnancy center there to talk about abortion and to talk about this clinic they had. It was a weekend retreat, if you would, for women that have had abortions. And you spend the weekend with them, you go through Bible studies. It's a small group of women, and you are able to get the healing from that by the end of the weekend. And I thought any healing would be amazing. And so I went to that weekend retreat, and there was like 12 women, which, 12 disciples, and it was fabulous. It was the hardest weekend I've ever been through in my life, but I wanted that healing so badly. I wanted that weight to be gone so badly. And I did all the Bible studies that we had for the weekend and shared testimony, even though it was so hard. And by the end of the weekend, when I was driving home, I had felt finally that weight just lift off of my shoulders. And I felt that freedom that so many people I have heard say, when I accepted Jesus, the weight just lifted off of me. And I'm like, really? Because that would be amazing. Mine, I had to wait a few extra years for, but it did. I felt the weight lift off of my shoulders. And friends, I can't tell you how amazing that felt. And I'm on my way home and I'm driving and I'm praising God and I'm singing and I told him, you want to use my testimony to help someone else? Please just tell me who I'm supposed to share with, and I will share my testimony. No matter how hard it's going to be, I will do it because I don't want other people to go through what I have been through. And that was on a Sunday. And we had Bible study at our house. This was years ago. I can't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but that week, like 3 or 4 days later, that week, we have Bible study, and a couple that had been coming for a long time had showed up that night. And normally we had a whole bunch of people. It was just them and my husband and I and my mom. And they were really, really having a hard time with things. So we finally got it out of them. We're like, just tell us so we can pray with you and help you and come alongside you. And they did. And they shared with us that their 16-year-old daughter was pregnant, and that the entire family had decided that it was best for her if she had an abortion. I listened to their whole story and what they were struggling with, and they had shared some things that had been going on with their daughter, and they thought she might be having doubts about having the abortion. And so when they were done, I said a very fast prayer that God would help me and give me the words. And I asked them, can I share my testimony with you? And they said yes. And I did. And I was honest and I was open. And I told them everything, the deepest details. And I did it with my mom sitting right next to me. That was the hardest thing ever, because I don't want to hurt my mom. I love my mom. I don't ever want to do anything that would hurt my mom, because she means that much to me. And so after I shared my testimony, she shared hers and the regrets that she had and everything that went with it from her point of view. And then we that also gave us the beginning of healing together, because we'd really had not talked about it in years. We shared our stories with them. We prayed with them. They left, and we continued to pray. And the next week they told us that they had talked with their daughter, and it was decided that they would raise the child as a family. And I could not have been given a bigger blessing. God has a plan for that child. I was supposed to share my testimony so that that child would have the opportunities that he's going to have. And it's just amazing to me that this horrible experience I went through, God took that bad situation and he used it for his good. He used it to save that child's life. He used it for the plan that he has for that child. And I don't know what that is, but God knows. And there was a reason that I was placed into that family's lives for just that moment, if nothing else. How awesome that is. And not that I tell you how blessed I am through that, just through that. But God has used my testimony in different ways. He has used me in different ways. He has forgiven me for everything that I have done. As I know it, when you go to him for forgiveness, he forgives you for everything, because that's who he is. He is loving and kind and forgiving when we go to him with an honest, genuine heart. And when we seek his will in our lives, he opens doors and allows us to do things that are mind-blowing. I mean, it wasn't just that I was forgiven, but he has forgiven me so completely. But God is just amazing, and he has allowed me to experience so many wonderful things. I have been blessed with an amazing husband. I have been blessed to be a pastor's wife. I have been blessed to minister to the people I work with and to pray with them and for them and be a counselor, if you will, an advisor. That is one of my gifts. You know, I told you confrontation is not my thing, and public speaking is a fear. I guess I don't consider this public speaking because I'm talking to you through a video camera. But I've also had to be stretched in my Christian walk by speaking in front of churches. So, God has just done all these amazing things in my life and throughout my life. And even though I had sinned all those different ways, 10 commandments broken, right? Even though I had done all of those horrible things, really bad decisions for many, many years, he still forgave me so completely and wanted to use me in these amazing ways. And I saw his blessings in ways I can't even fathom, and I can't even explain to you. And just, he is awesome. That's not just what he does for me. That's what he wants to do for you. He wants to do amazing things in and through you. And what you need to do is not look at your past like a weakness, but see it as a strength that you can then share with someone to help them. I don't know if you're going to get anything out of this story that I'm telling you about my life, but someone might need to hear the fact that when you give your life to Christ, you are a new creation. The old is gone. It's gone. He has forgiven you. Because you asked for forgiveness, he has forgiven you, and you are moving forward, holding God's hand, walking alongside him, and he's going to take you on adventures that you never saw coming and are going to be something you strive for. You're going to want more of that with each passing day. I know I do. I want God to fill me and more with each day. I want to hear him clearer tomorrow, more than today. I want to be stretched, as hard as that is and uncomfortable sometimes. I want him to stretch me because I want him to use me to help others. I don't want people to live their lives in the anger and the depression and the horribleness that I lived in for so long, because we don't have to live like that. When we walk with God, when we give our lives to God, he takes that away. Sometimes it's not instant, right? Just like I told you, I had to suffer for those extra years after walking with Christ, about losing my child, until it was the right time, until I was ready to hear and to receive fully the healing that he had for me. Because I wasn't ready in the beginning. I thought I was, but I wasn't. There were so many other aspects to it. And if you think about it, it's all about God's timing. If he had me go through the retreat and that weight lift off of me any sooner, would I have been as receptive to share my testimony with that family that I did? I don't know. Because sometimes we don't always see the open doors, or we don't have the same impact. So when right at that beginning time, I was on fire, and I was not more willing to share it, but yeah, maybe that's what it is. Just on fire to help people in such a passionate way from that experience, that his timing might not have been utilized the way it actually ended up being. We see God work more powerfully in our lives than we could ever imagine. And I want that for you. I want you to draw closer to God. I want you to go to your Bible and to look at Scripture. What does it mean to look more like Jesus? Read about Jesus. In the New Testament is about Jesus. The Old Testament talks about the Messiah who is coming. And then the New Testament is he's born and he is here. And who was Jesus? Take the time to read about him. Ask God to show you, to make clear his words, and don't read it like a book. If you're a new Christian, do not read the Bible like you would normally read a book. It is to be taken in smaller chunks and to be read slowly and to meditate on those words. So when you read a scripture, I have found that sometimes it is helpful to just read it and to think about it and to pray about it and to read it again and to look at the scriptures around it, to really get the understanding and the context and what's going on at that time, because it's a whole picture. I mean, there are some times where we can take a verse and pluck it out by itself and share it. And it could be like John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life or eternal life, right? And that applies to everybody who accepts Jesus. That's for everybody. But there are some verses that you can't just pluck it out by itself, because when you do, you're taking it out of context. It changes the meaning. And that's really important that we don't do that. And that's why I have started researching different things to combat the misconceptions of the Bible that have been going around for years, like money is the root of all evil. Well, I did a video on that. Is it? Watch the video. If God's speaking to your heart through these videos, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, leave a comment. Let me know how God is working in and through you, how I can pray for you, because when I do these videos, I pray for the people that are going to be watching it. And I pray that God uses my words that he has given me to share with you, to encourage you and to strengthen you, and to remind you how loved and cherished you are. And that's my story. That's where I'm at today. I've got all the way up to YouTube videos. Pretty current. I'm sure I haven't told you everything, because there must be some kind of mystery. I mean, those are a lot of years I've lived. And right now I've walked with the Lord for almost 19 years. And there's a lot that has gone on in those 19 years. And I have changed and grown so much. It's awesome. And I pray the same for you. I pray that you are growing closer to him each and every day. I look forward to talking to you on the next video. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.